Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, everyone. In this class, we're going to be looking at the med letters, okay? The med letters, not the mad letters, okay? Med. I've written it with two D's, okay? Because when we write the word in Arabic, it has a dal with a shadda on it, meaning there's two dals. So that's why I've put two D's, okay? So the med letters. So what are the med letters? First of all, the word med in Arabic means to elongate or lengthen or to stretch. Any of those meanings, okay? Making something longer. So the three letters that can be used for med, meaning to lengthen, are the alif, the waw, and the ya. Okay, that doesn't mean that they are exclusively used for med. Okay, they can be used, as you've seen, to make their own sound, like the a, u, e, or the wa, wu, we, and the ya, yu, yi. But they can also be used as med letters, meaning to lengthen the sound of the haraka on the letter before it. So they can be used to lengthen the sound of the haraka on the letter before it. Okay? So let's look at some examples and then it will become clearer, inshallah. But first of all, before we do that, I just wanted to mention that when we use the alif as a letter of med, then it will come without this hamza, okay? This little symbol that you can see above the alif, this symbol here, is actually called a hamza, okay? So when we use the alif as a med letter, then it will not have the hamza above it, all right? So that's the first thing. So we can get rid of that. So the three letters will then look like this, okay? When used as med letters, the alif, the waw, and the ya. So it's also very important to know that the alif is used to lengthen the fatha sound on the letter before it. The waw is used to lengthen the dhamma sound on the letter before it. And the ya is used to lengthen the kasra sound on the letter before it. Okay? So let's look at some examples. Here we have written a ba and an alif attached to it. Okay? An alif without the hamza, but rather just a sukun. And the ba has a fatha above it. All right? So when do we use the alif or the med version of the alif? It is when we want to lengthen the fatha sound. Okay? When we want to lengthen the fatha sound of the letter before it, then we must use the alif. Okay? We must use an alif to lengthen the fatha sound. So if it was just the ba with a fatha above it, then we would say ba. But if we want to lengthen this fatha sound and make it twice as long, then we would add a alif after it, okay? We would attach the alif to it, and the alif also must be without the hamza, and it also must have a sukun, okay? It must come with a sukun. So then we would pronounce this as ba, okay? We would now pronounce this as ba. It's as if you're doubling the fatha sound. So again, if there was no alif here, and it was just the ba with the fatha, we would say ba, ba. But then if we add the alif to it, okay, and it has the sukun on it, then we would lengthen this fatha sound and it would become ba. Okay, let's look at the next one. When we want to lengthen the dhamma sound, meaning the u sound, then we use a waw and a sukoon. Okay, we use the waw with a sukoon above it. So first of all, if we get rid of the waw and the sukoon, and we just have a ba with a dhamma above it, then you know we would pronounce this as bu. Bu. Okay? But as soon as we attach a waw and a waw with a sukoon above it, then it becomes bu. Bu. Okay? All it's doing is extending the sound of the dhamma. Okay? When the waw has a sukoon above it, it is extending the sound of the dhamma. So it went from bu to bu. Okay? And lastly, we have the ya. So when we want to extend the sound of the kasra, then we attach a ya to the letter before it. Okay? We attach a ya to the letter that has the kasra below it. Okay? So again, if we get rid of the ya and the sukoon, and we just have the ba with the kasra, you know how we would pronounce this? It would be bi. Bi. But as soon as we attach a ya with a sukoon to it, it will lengthen the sound of the kasra and it will become bi. Bi. Okay? Jamil. So as you've seen, we can extend the sound of the, or we can extend the fatha sound by using an alif, okay? By attaching the alif to the letter that has a fatha above it. We can extend the dhamma sound by attaching a waw to the letter that has the dhamma above it. And we can extend the kasra sound by attaching a ya to the letter that has a kasra below it. Okay? So ba becomes ba with the alif. Bu becomes bu with the waw. And bi becomes bi with the ya. Okay? And of course, they must all have a sukoon. However, most of the time, you will see that the med letters come with no haraka above it. There will be nothing above it. What that means is there is a sukoon. Okay? Just take that as a rule. If there is no haraka that can be seen above the letter, okay, when you're reading and you don't see anything above the letter, that means that letter has a sukoon on it. All right? That means that there is a sukoon on that letter. So for example, if you saw it like this, yeah, I know it's not white, it's gray, but if you didn't see any sukoon above this letter, then that would mean that there is a sukoon there, okay? The absence of any haraka means that there is a sukoon written there. Jameen. Okay, so let's look at some words with the med letters. So we have this word here, babun. Babun. Okay? So we have the ba with the fatha above it. And then it has an alif attached to the ba, and that alif, very importantly, comes with a sukoon, and also there is no hamza. There is no hamza above the alif, okay? So then it becomes a letter of med, or a med letter. Then it elongates or lengthens the sound of the fatha on the letter ba in this example, okay? So then we would pronounce this as ba, okay? Not ba, it becomes ba. And of course we have a ba on the end with the dhammatan or the tanween al-dhamma. The tanween al-dhamma, which means that the ba now ends with the dhamma sound and the n sound. So it becomes babun. Babun. Okay? So I want to ask a question. What if we got rid of this alif? What if we got rid of this alif and it was just the ba attached directly to the other ba? Then we would pronounce it as babun. Babun. Okay? It would be pronounced babun. But because we have the alif here and it is lengthening the sound of the fatha, okay, it is a letter of med lengthening the sound of this fatha, then we pronounce this as babun. Babun. Okay? Let's look at the next one. What about the word, or rather, what if we have the ba, okay, with the dhamma above it, and then attached to it is a waw with a sukoon above it? We would pronounce that as boo. Okay? We would pronounce that as boo, because the waw with a sukoon above it, preceded by a letter with a dhamma above it, it will extend the sound of that dhamma. Okay? It will lengthen the sound of the dhamma. Alright? And at the end we have the noon, and it has the dhammatan above it. In this example, it has the dhammatan, okay, the tanween al-dhamma, or it could have had the fathatan, meaning the two fathas, or the kasratan, the two kasras. You could also have even taken a singular dhamma, singular fatha, and a singular kasra, if there were some other additions like the alif and lam at the start of this word. Suffice to say, it doesn't matter how this letter ended. It could have ended with any haraka, okay? It's not important. It's just wanted to show you that in this particular example, we wanted to use the dhammatan, okay? So how would we pronounce this word? We would pronounce this as bunun. Bunun, okay? Why are we pronouncing it like this? It is because the ba here has a dhamma above it. It has a dhamma above it, and then the waw that comes straight or attached to that ba has a sukoon on it. So it is not creating its own sound. It is not creating its own sound, but rather it is just lengthening the sound of the dhamma on this ba. So instead of bu, it becomes bu. Okay? So we would say bunun. Bunun. Jamil. And lastly, we have the ya being used as a letter of med to lengthen the kasra in this word. Okay? So we have the ba, it has a kasra below it, and then attached to it is a ya with a sukoon. It has a ya with a sukoon attached to the ba, meaning it will lengthen the sound of the kasra. So instead of it being bi, it will become bi. Okay? Bi. And then the last letter in the word is the dad, and it also has the dhammatan above it. Again, it could have been any haraka, but in this example, it is the dhammatan. So we would pronounce this as bidun. Bidun. And just to test you, to make sure you've understood it, if we got rid of this ya and we just had the ba with a kasra attached straight to the dad, how would we then pronounce this word? We would pronounce it as bidun. Bidun. But because we have the ya and it has the sukoon above it, it is extending the sound of the kasra. So then we would pronounce this word as bidun. Bidun. Jamil. So I know in all of these examples, I've used the ba to show how the harakat can be extended. But we can use any letter, okay? We could have used any letter. What's important is the haraka that comes with that letter, not the letter itself. So for example, let's use a jim, okay? So if the jim has a fatha above it, then what letter would I need to use from the letters of med to extend this fatha sound? You should be able to tell me. The letter is the alif, okay? We would use the alif to extend the letter of, or rather the sound of the fatha on this jim. So instead of it being ja, it now becomes ja, okay? And what if we wanted to extend the sound of the ra, okay? We have the ra, and the ra has a dhamma above it. It's got a dhamma above it, okay? So how would we extend this? How would we make it go from ru to ru? That's right. We would use the waw, okay? We would use the waw, and the waw would have a sukoon above it. We can choose to write the sukoon or just write nothing. Remember, if a letter has no haraka above it, it means that it has a sukoon above it, okay? So we can choose to write a sukoon above these two letters, or we don't have to write them. We can just leave it blank, but we know that there is a sukoon above it. And another letter, let's choose the ayn as an example, okay? So if we have the ayn at the start of a word, and then we have, it doesn't have to be at the start of a word, okay? It could be anywhere in the word, but it has to come before the letter of med, okay? That's the condition. It has to come before the med letter. And if it has a kasra below it, okay? If the ayn has a kasra below it, then how would we extend this kasra sound? We would extend it with, that's right, the ya, okay? So it goes from being to okay? Becomes And just to emphasize what I was just mentioning about it not needing to come at the start of a word, if, for example, we put a waw at the start of this, okay? Yeah? Then we can see that the ya is still elongating or lengthening the kasra sound in this ayn, okay? But rather, we've just had the waw at the beginning. So it becomes wa'i, okay? The ya here is still extending the sound of this kasra. Why? Because the ya has a sukoon above it, and it is preceded by a kasra. When the ya has a sukoon, and it's preceded by a kasra, whether it's in the middle of the word or at the beginning of the word, then it will elongate the kasra sound. The same for the waw, okay? As long as the letter before the waw has a dhamma and the waw has a sukoon above it, then it will elongate the sound of the ra. Okay, so for example, we could just put an alif at the start of this word here, okay? Yeah, we could just put an alif here. And the waw is still elongating the ra with the dhamma, okay? It would still be aru. It wouldn't be aru, it would be aru. And lastly, okay, we've put a jim here with a fatha, and we use the alif to lengthen the sound of this fatha, okay? But of course, any letter could come before it, so we could put a ta at the start, all right? And it could be taja. So the alif is still lengthening the jim sound with the fatha above it, okay? So it's not a condition that the letter being lengthened or the sound being lengthened comes at the start of the word. No. The condition is that the letter of med, first of all, has a sukoon on it, okay? Or no haraka above it, meaning there is a sukoon, So there is a sukoon on that med letter. And secondly, the haraka on the letter before it must be compatible with that med letter. Okay? So again, if we want to extend the fatha sound, then we use the alif. Okay? The alif without the hamza and with a sukoon. That will extend the fatha sound. When we want to extend the waw sound on any letter, then we use the waw, okay? Or rather, when we want to extend the dhamma sound, the u sound on any letter, then we use the waw with a sukoon immediately after that letter. So here will be ru, okay? Or aru, as we've written in this word. And lastly, when we want to extend the kasra sound, we simply attach a ya to that letter and put a sukoon on it. Okay, so here it would be wa'i. The ya is extending the kasra underneath the ain. Okay, Jameel. I hope that lesson was clear. And as always, I will see you in the next one.